matrix, it's literally like, it'd be the equivalent of you digging a hole and then you building a well around yourself. What's up, YouTube, and welcome to my channel, Still on the Bio T. It's your girl TK, and we're back with another video. Today we're going to be continuing our bone content and continuing to dive deeper and deeper into what exactly a bone is and all of those things. But before I get into our objectives for today and what we're going to be covering, make sure you please go ahead and like this video, comment down below your favorite thing about bones. Go ahead and share the video to all your friends so they can get that biology help that you're getting, and so they can spill some biology with us too. And then go ahead and hit that post notification bell so you know every time I'm posting and you never miss an upload. Because you know I'll be helping you study. You know I help you get through this content. So go ahead and make sure that you hit the notification bell so you know what's going on. It's right over there. Before we jump into this though, we do want to make sure our energies are clear. Make sure everything is nice and good for us. So we're going to go ahead and burn us a nice piece of sage as we do always. So as I burn this sage, we just burn it with the intentions that you will come out of this video with a clear mind and with positive energy and positive, just positive feelings towards the content we'll be covering. So as I'm burning this, go ahead and set your intentions and take 3 nice, mindful, deep breaths. Let's go ahead and hop right into this content and get this kettle hot. So like I said, today we're going to be continuing to cover all things bone related and all things bone cell related. So we're going to be covering the cells of the bones, what those cells do, how they function together, and how they function in the osseous tissue environment. First, we're going to be starting off with the cells of the bones. So we have 3 major cells of the bones. We have the osteoblast, the osteoclast, and the osteocyte. So the osteoblast is what we call the builder. The osteoclast is what we call the cutter. And the osteocyte is what we call the storage. The osteoblast is the builder, like I said. So these are those relationships in life that build you up. They're the things that build your character. They're the things that pour positivity into you. That's what I want you to think of a builder as. A builder is the osteoblast, or the builder is the cell that is building up your character, that is helping you to see the positives in life, those optimistic friends, right? So that is your osteoblast. Your osteoclast is the cutter. The osteoclast is what cuts things down. It's what provides some of those, I wouldn't necessarily call them negative experiences, but those more learning experiences. These are those things that come in and teach you the lessons in life. It's not so much so building up your character and making you feel positive, make you feel good about things, but they're those things that are cutting at your character, making you feel, you know, not exactly positive about everything, but at the same time, they're helping you still as the person to build into the final character of who you are. They're not providing those positive experiences that everyone wants to, go through. And then you have your storage. Those people, these are kind of like those relationships with those people that are there just waiting in case something comes up. A mentor that's always just there with a listening ear in case they're needed, in case something comes up, but not necessarily somebody that is a constant in your life, somebody that's always there providing either a building or a cutting type of relationship. It's more or less that person that's just kind of on standby in case you need something. Now that we kind of have something that kind of help you remember how each one of these, what role each one of these plays generally, we're going to go into details about what these cells do. So the osteoblast develops from stem cells. These stem cells are called mesenchymal stem cells. What osteoblasts do are that they lay down the extracellular matrix of the bone. So what is the extracellular matrix of the bone? It's basically the part of the bone that makes the bone hard. It's all of the glycoproteins, the proteoglycans, a substance that we call hydroxyapatite, which is basically just a crystal. And then we have collagen that is laid at this point. It's just a bunch of different molecules and things that come together that we call osteoid. So the osteoid is laid down by the osteoblast to make the bone hard. So that's basically the role of what your osteoblast does. Your osteoblast is what is laying down that matrix to make sure that the bone is hard and ready to go. So now I'm going to transition from the osteoblast because it makes sense to transition straight from the osteoblast into the osteocyte. So the osteocyte develops from the osteoblast. So the osteoblast lays down this matrix to make the bone hard. But when it's laying down this matrix, it's literally like, it'd be the equivalent of you digging a hole and then you building a well around yourself. So that's basically what the osteoblast is doing. It's laying down the matrix around itself and basically cocooning itself into this spot so that it can't move. Once it's in that place where it can't move and it's cocooned in this matrix that it has laid down, it is considered an osteocyte and is now storage. So the osteoblast lays down this matrix of this extracellular of all these different substances, proteins, and all of these things. It lays it down, makes this matrix, and once it's laid down and made this matrix, it's now called an osteocyte. So once you have an osteocyte, this osteocyte is laying in its little nest, and that nest is called what? Yes, you got it right, a lacunae. We talked about that in the previous video. If you don't know what a lacunae is in the osteocyte already, make sure you go watch the previous video, which I'll have linked up here in the cards, so that you can go figure out the bone anatomy, histology, and get some of those basics first before you dive into the bone cells. So yeah, so that's kind of what the osteocyte does, and we'll talk about the osteocyte in a minute. Once we get into the osteoclast, we'll revisit the osteocyte. But for right now, just know that it's made by the osteoblast laying down that matrix, surround itself, cocoon it in place, and now once I'm in place, I can't move anymore. I'm an osteocyte. I'm stuck at this place. I'm stuck at my site. So now we've laid down some matrix. So now we have a osteoclast. So the osteoclast is the most different of the bone cells because it's not even made by the same tissue. So like I told you, the osteocytes are made from osteoblasts. So they're made from what type of cells? Mesenchymal cells. They're made from mesenchymal cells because they're made from osteoblasts. Osteoblasts develop from mesenchymal cells. So osteocytes and osteoblasts both come from mesenchymal cells. Osteoclasts, however, come from hematopoietic cells. Hematopoietic cells are the cells that make our immune cells. So we kind of think of our osteoclast as almost kind of like the immune bone cell. Immune cells chew up or break down, destroy, whatever you want to say, whatever substances in our body causing us infection. So it's basically the cutter of the body. So that's why the osteoclast kind of goes into that category and is made by hematopoietic cells. The interesting thing about osteoclasts is that they are actually stimulated by osteoblasts. So the osteoblast secretes a molecule called monocyte stimulating factor. Your osteoclasts are stimulated by the monocyte stimulating factor. The MCSF, or monocyte stimulating factor, stimulates the granulocyte macrophage progenitor cells to differentiate into pre-osteoclast cells. These pre-osteoclast cells, once they're differentiated into, they are stimulated by rank L, which is also something that is secreted from the osteoblast, to go to the area that the osteoblast is telling it to go to. It's telling it to cluster. It's saying, hey, cluster. Once these cells are told by the rank L to cluster, this clustering, once they get close together, they start to merge together. These pre-osteoclast cells form one big cell together, which we call the osteoclast. So the osteoclast is not stimulated to come to the area or even form until the osteoblast wants it to be formed, because the osteoblast stimulates resorption. So the osteoblast secretes two different molecules that are super important to us. We have osteopterygen, I get that thing wrong every time, which it inhibits osteoclast activity. And then we got the rank L, which stimulates osteoclast activity. So the osteopterygen is basically it's the inhibitor to the rank L. So both of them are released by our osteoblasts release them, but they don't release them at the same time. The osteopterygen is going to be released when we no longer need osteoclasts in the area. So how do osteoclasts work? Osteoclasts have a ruffle border on the end of them. This ruffle border allows them to have increased surface area so that they can cover as much bone tissue as they need to cover. One thing I want you to get, if you don't get anything else, is that osteoclasts are related to cutting/resorption. Cutting, resorption, osteoclast. Okay? That means that we're breaking down the bone tissue. We're getting rid of bone tissue. So we use the ruffle border to attach as much bone tissue as we can. This ruffle border has what we call carbonic anhydrase enzymes all along the edge of it, all along the membrane that is on the edge of this border. This stimulates the formation of bicarbonate and hydrogen ions. These hydrogen ions are what make the area acidic. Bones don't like acid. So the acidic environment created by the carbonic anhydrase in the membrane of the osteoclast is what stimulates the bone to break down. When the bone breaks down, it releases calcium and phosphate into the area, because those are two things that are used to make up your bone. So, which we'll talk about in the next video when we talk about bone development. You kind of get a better idea about how all this comes together, and we'll go back over these bone cell functions. Before we jump into an overview, so you can also know, from the osteoclast, they also have hydrolytic enzymes. These hydrolytic enzymes are what break down the collagen and the other proteins that are there to make sure that everything from the bone is breaking down. Once the osteoclast is finished breaking down all the bone tissue it needs to break down, it goes through apoptosis, which is programmed cell death. So the osteoclasts do their thing, break down all the bone tissue that needs to be broken down, and then they die. And when you no longer need to make osteoclast anymore, that's when you start making the osteopterygen. Before that, there is no need to make it. You're just making rank L from those osteoblasts. So just as an overview, the osteoblast is the builder. It lays down all the extracellular matrix. It's going to secrete MCSF that stimulates the osteoclast to start to develop, and then it stimulates the release of a rank L that stimulates the osteoclast to come to the area, and then form the pre-osteoclast to come to the area and then form the osteoclast once in the area. Osteoblasts inhibit and stimulate the osteoclast. The osteocyte is basically a mature osteoblast sitting in the lacunae that the osteoblast developed for it to sit in. And the osteoclast is the cutter. It's breaking down bone tissue and breaking it down more and more and more and more. That's all it's doing. It's just breaking down the bone tissue by way of carbonic anhydrase that is found in the membrane of the osteoclast. So each cell has a very specific function that it does, and they eventually work together. In the next video, we'll talk about how these cells all come together and work together to eventually allow for bone development and also bone remodeling, which we use throughout our lives to make sure that our bones can adapt to whatever situation we need them to be in. So with that being said, I hope this video was helpful. I hope it was able to give you a good explanation of what all the cells in the bones do, how they're different, how they line up, and just, generally what they do. But like I said at the beginning, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you share this video to all of your friends so they can know that we over here spelling the biology T together. So make sure you go ahead and do that for me. Make sure you hit that post notification bell like I said. And, you know, just continue to enjoy these videos with me. If you have suggestions of things that you would like me to do content on, topics that you would like me to cover, please make sure you put those in the comment section down below. And I will see you in my next video. We out. Peace.